Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Vicki, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Let's do this. So, tell us the story, Vicki. What got you into the lovely, sometimes a bit stressful world of consulting?
Well, my story is a little different because I did not dream about this. This was not something I wanted to do. When I when I left corporate America, when they were going through downsizing, right sizing, resizing, re-engineering, call it whatever you want to call it during the time. And I was moving on for my next opportunity. Unfortunately, I was put into a position where I thought I was going back to work, but I ended up having to caregive for about 5 people at the same time while working. And the only way I could work and do that and have any kind of flexibility was that I ended up starting for myself. And I thought all these projects that I was going into, even as temporary CIO or as interim this or working on strategy projects there, I thought, oh my gosh, it's only going to last a little while and then I'm going back to work. Well, that little while ended up being here I am sitting here, 14 years later. And still doing it. So once I got started and got in it, that's what ended up happening. But it was not something that I went after. It's not something I desired to do because of all the stresses that come with it. I was like, oh my gosh, do I really want to do that? Deal with trying to do sales and payroll and all those things that you hear about. And but here I am. And I'm very thankful that I've been able to stand for 14 years and still going.
I like that. So I do rarely hear though, oh yeah, when I was young, I was dreaming of becoming a B2B consultant. People often fall into it, but it's interesting to see the different journeys that take us there. Cool. So tell us about the problem that you solve now, Vicki. What is it that you help people accomplish?
So one of the things that I work to do is I work with a lot of leaders in corporations, and I help them to determine they've got all this AI. I'm a technologist by trade, love technology. We're talking about the wave of the future. That's great. That's wonderful. But nobody wants to adopt it or use it. How do we get the people in the mix to use it? Even if that technology is going to replace some tasks or activities and certain roles may be redundant, doesn't mean that all roles are. And technology does not mean that we don't need human intervention for the things that the mind can do that the technology isn't doing. So I go in to help them to bridge that gap. How are we going to get people to use it? What is the people first transformation effort to match to your strategy so you can get the return on the investment for all of the reasons you did it in the first place? So whether that is working with the organizations or whether it is actually doing leadership development for some of the leaders in terms of how do I think about this differently? Because after all, everything starts with the mind.
So define for us leaders, like do you have a specific niche, a specific industry, a specific company size, a specific role that you're typically going to help? Like how do you choose who you help and accompany on this journey?
Well, every company uses technology, so it's industry agnostic. So that's the beautiful thing about doing it. Most of the time, the way that people find me is either there's a VP or a CIO or somebody in an organization that I happen to either be at an event, somebody found me, and they're saying, we have this issue and we really need help in getting it solved. So that's usually the executive level, senior level that usually invites me in. in terms of getting an opportunity to come to the table to have a conversation to help them to resolve this challenging issue that they're facing.
Okay. Is there a typical, so 100%, I mean, most organizations use technology. Most organizations, more than one people organizations, let's say, will have leaders, right? In essence. Um, so industry agnostic, do you have a specific role, like job title that you like to support and that you get pretty good results for? Or is it again, like as long as you need leadership skills, you're gonna, potentially lead our services?
Now, that's a very interesting question, simply because I've been in organizations where when they've hired me as the AI transformation change leader. Some of them have hired me as, we want you to come in and develop and create our change management model, methodology, strategies, roadmap, and execution. Some of them they've kind of ranged within that. Some of them have even gotten to the point that as I'm working with the senior leadership, they have mid-level leaders and other leaders that they want to train on how to do these things. So I will also do leadership development and skill training for those individuals as well, to be able to understand, how do I lead a team through this? How do I go through talking to my team, especially if I know that there's going to be certain things that are impacted? How do I get buy-in? What is that process? What does that look like? So they range in titles in terms of what they are. But as far as the area that I'm usually always working in is technology.
Okay, fair enough. So how do you, and this one is going to be an interesting one then, Vicky, because when you can help everybody, I'm always interested into understanding how you market and brand that. Like, what has worked for you to attract the right people to you, and for people to raise their hands and being like, hey, we need support with all things technology and leadership here. We can figure it out. So what has worked for you to attract leads, and most importantly, qualified leads?
I think there's a couple of things. Number one, authenticity is the most crucial thing you can have. People need to feel it, hear it, and understand it when you speak it. Anything that you write, they need to understand where you're coming from. I always try to do my writing. I look to do my speaking all around research and facts. After all, we all have opinions, and opinions are welcome. But when you can take real problems that have been justified in research and data, and you can show what those challenges are, and it's real, then you're not making it up. This isn't just what Vicki thinks. This isn't just what I thought of overnight. This is real. This is happening every single day. So you're reading about it, you're hearing about it. So when you begin to have conversations and you're using that basis as to your conversation, now you have more credibility. Now I'm not just thinking off the whim. The thing that becomes unique is, what do you do with that research? And how do you apply that to your methods and your models as you continue to move forward? So as I build, as I create methodologies and the way that I'm going to use these strategies on my own, that are going to be my methods, it's always based in that research. The second thing is I think that one of the other things that has gone to my advantage is I speak the level of the language of being real. We can all talk up here. We can all sit in our ivory tower. But let's talk about what really happens. And let's deal with the real use cases. When you can break things down and you can help them to understand what's real, a lot of times there's a disconnect in communication. They're not hearing each other. They're not talking to each other. They're talking at each other. I have a philosophy that I use that has served me well in my premise. Anytime we talk about change, just think about it. Everybody on this earth has a favorite radio station. That radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Now, think about any conversation you have. If somebody comes to you and says, we're going to change from doing X to Y, the immediate subconscious says, so what is that going to do to me? Immediately, it's self-preservation. Nobody decided I'm going to go out there and be against you immediately. Nobody got up that morning and decided I'm not going to let this work. It's all because our instincts are what's in it for me. So when you're working to get change to occur, how am I going to get change if I can't talk about what it's going to do to you? If I can't talk about what this really means to you, number one. Number two, the communication gap as I am talking to leaders and I can have these real conversations is when we move up the ladder in our leadership development and you get up, you get into the strategy and the vision and where we're going to go. The details of how things get done, you lose. It's natural. You can't do it all. So you're going to lose it. So your ability to listen and to hear and to understand, not that you do it, but you understand, goes a long way in building that trust. As I'm having these kinds of conversations with leaders and they're like, you know what, you're right on. We're not getting this. We're not getting that. People are not using it. People are scared. And then that's what invites me in.
So there are many things that I like in what you said and that I want to double down on, and maybe get a bit tactical for the people listening to us, Vicki, so that they can learn from this and implement it for themselves.
Yes.
When you say people need to feel authenticity, they need to see it. You need to show it to them. I couldn't agree more. Like, in my opinion, so that's why I'm doing all my podcast episodes live, by the way. This is me embracing that because I'm like, I'd rather people see my fumbling and my mistakes and my non-modified French accents than giving a polished version of that to the public. And they would never really know if it's real, if it's fake, authentic, whatever. So authenticity, live by it. Couldn't agree more with you. That's super important. Credibility as well, obviously. That's when proof comes up, case studies and so on. How do you tactically showcase this authenticity, though? What works for you in terms of, I don't know, content strategy, outreach strategy? What has worked for you, for your clients and potential clients to see and feel that authenticity?
I'm a firm believer that authenticity is felt through an emotional connection. You can meet people and you just, how you automatically just connect to them and you go, oh my gosh, I just love their energy. I love their personality. I love where they're coming from, their thought process, how they're working. No one can be you but you. So when we start talking about authenticity, it's not just a word that says be authentic. What we're really saying is don't be anybody else but you. Just be yourself. Being yourself, sharing your thoughts, your journeys, your experiences, the things that make you whom you are is what's important. That's what makes people gravitate towards you. Now, everybody is not going to like that authenticity. And I think that's the tactical difference that people need to understand. Everybody's not going to gravitate towards that. Everybody's not going to want what you have. Some people will, some people don't. But when you're authentic, you're okay with that. Because that means that I'm being who I really am. And I want to be with those who I can be really who I am. And I don't have to facade, right? So I think the ability to really be who you are at all times is what makes that connection work. And believe it or not, that feeling comes through even when you write. How did you say it? What did you say? What did that look like? So when people get a feeling, now in person is always better. You can show emotions, you can show body language, you can read body language, you can understand what's going on in a room. So those things when you're in person are easier. But even when you write, they need to understand, where is she coming from? What is she really talking about? Do I agree? Do I disagree? Do I want to learn more? So I think it's all a combination of all of those things, because after all of that makes up your brand of who you are. Your brand of who you are and how people receive that brand and feel that brand. And it's just like anything else. Any other ad we see out there, anything we do is about, how do you feel when you see that ad? How do you feel when you think about that company or that product or whatever? But it's really about branding yourself.
So I think in a world and a day and age where information has become a commodity, the value is not in there is some value in your expertise, but this is not what's going to make you stand out. What's going to make you stand out is you have the expertise, like many other people like you, but how much can potential clients relate to you and be like, yeah, okay, I have the choice between those, gazillions leadership coach, but I'm going to go with this one because I can relate the most. And I've seen the most of that person and I vibe with that. My question is also, how do you do that? So to give you an example, and maybe for people listening to us, that will be helpful. I'm a huge advocate of podcasts, obviously, because I think it unlocks multiple things at the same time. That authenticity, that long form format where you're going to have someone listen to you for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes on multiple platforms. You can take pieces of content from that and put it a bit everywhere on the internet, social media, websites. So you build that authenticity, that trust, and that brand of yourself out there with a medium that allows you to have this type of conversations. For you, Vicki, how do you do that because I'm not a coach. So how do you do that in your practice? How do you embrace authenticity, your brand, and putting it out there?
So, when I start thinking about my brand methodology, my brand strategy, I sit down and think about that strategy just like I would any other business challenge, but I want to understand first, where's my audience, because that's what's going to be important first, is making sure you're talking to the right people. Otherwise, it's social media it just goes. It doesn't mean anything. So I want to make sure I'm talking to the right people. Number two, when I do my brand strategy and I'm looking, I want to present content out there, to your point, that allows me to show snippets of who I really am. That's why I love podcasts. One of the beautiful things about podcasts is that it allows you to have casual conversations that are real and authentic, that you can use pieces of at any point in time. So people don't have to perceive, they can see. It's not just what I thought, it's what I heard, it's what I saw, it's what I observed. So I think that as I am going through this and looking at all the mediums, it's a mixture, because other people are going to receive things differently. Let me give your audience some examples. People who are introverts don't like a lot of noise. They don't like a lot of commotion. They want more time to think. They want more time to process. They're brilliant. Introverts can be some of the most brilliant people out there, but you never hear from them. It's all in what they're thinking. You see it in their actions and in their behaviors. So if I want to talk to a leader and connect, and they're an introvert, my approach to branding is going to be, what thought-provoking questions am I putting out there? What thought-provoking challenges am I putting out there? So that individual can also have something to relate to. It doesn't mean that extroverts won't, but it also means that it gives them something they can feel embraced in, that they can grab to. because that's how they process. On the other side, I can look at people who are more extroverts, who love more conversation, who love to have more they want to, they think while they're speaking, while they're thinking, they're engaged. They want to have that feeling of engagement. They want that energy. They want all of these different combinations. They look at it differently. So that's why when you look at your strategy of marketing, you're talking to an audience, but everybody in that audience isn't the same. You have to also deal with the different kinds of personalities, behaviors, thoughts, so that you can attract and show them as you're moving forward, right? And they can hear you in their process. Back to WIIFM, right? How do I process? How do I think? The most powerful word in the English language is I, because nobody can tell you how you feel. So what do I think? How am I hearing this? How am I seeing this? That's what becomes critical. So I try to break my strategy up so it's not always the same. I can get to people where they are. It's important to me to reach them. Where are you? Where is that selfish moment? Where are you at this point? So that they can have that relatability. They can understand what that next step could potentially be. So I'm one that really tries to put a lot of thought behind what I'm doing. So you might see me speaking, out somewhere publicly. You might see me on a podcast. You might see me writing. You might see me at certain events that are around the subject matter. So it's all about the combination, I believe, when it comes to the success. And that's what I have utilized. The second, and the other thing that is, I'm very selfish with my time. Time is a gift that we can't get back. So let's make sure every second we're spending it with quality, value, and what we want to do that was worth that time. So combination of all of those things is how I build my brand, how I get people to attract, how I talk to individuals and relate to what those challenges are.
Mm-hmm. So I like that a lot. I'm going to give a bit of so I wanted to try and get something out of you specifically, Vicki, and you've given us much more. I was digging for copper and you gave us gold. I'm still because I think we're not giving you as much credit as we should with this interview. Just so you guys know, people listening to us right now, Vicki is everywhere. She's active every day on LinkedIn. She's active on Instagram. She has a very active blog section, website. She has a feature section where she go on other people's podcasts. She has the diary of a successful Black single mothers. She's everywhere. Video, written, and I'm saying this obviously because you're doing one or two things right, Vicki. I'm also saying this because success doesn't come to you just because you want it. It comes to you because people can see that authenticity, can feel it, and because you're constantly there to remind them of it. The best part is it's free. It's content. LinkedIn lets you post as much as you bloody want. Pardon for the French. Let's call it French privilege. So take everything that Vicki just explained and tactically implement it with actual content everywhere. And bear in mind, this is going to take time. This doesn't happen overnight. This takes not weeks, not months, years, potentially even more than that. But you get that brand that compounds and that gets in front of more and more people, and that ends up attracting the type of people you want to work with. How do you, let's switch to retention, Vicki. How do you retain once you start working with a client? So how do you make sure that one engagement transforms into another engagement and then another engagement and then another engagement, and you get the idea?
So I have been told that's a gift of mine. Now, when I go into a client site and I'm working with them, I'm invested in that client. I had a leader tell me once, "Are you sure you're a consultant and not an employee?" And I said, "Yes. Why do you ask?" He said, "You love this company and do just as much for this company as these employees do, if not more." I don't take a client that I can't believe in, that I can't get behind, that I don't want to see successful. So therefore, I'm invested. And once I get invested in the company, they no longer see me as a consultant. They see me as part of their fabric, which is why a lot of my clients have lasted 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, going on 3. I don't want to let her go. We can't let her go. We don't want her to go anywhere. And so I am very intentional about my mode, my method, my brand, my behaviors, and my interactions with the people. The people have always been my backbone to every company. The leaders see I love it and don't want to let it go. The people are like, she understands and gets it. You can't let her go. And a lot of that has to deal with the area that I'm coming in to help with affects them personally. So it's the humanistic side of what we're doing and utilizing. And my ability to be technologist, coming from technology, but speak it in a terms that they understand it, of impact, usage, what that's going to look like, has been my blessing and my gift that I have been able to share with other organizations. So that is the secret sauce for me. I'm authentic in who I am, but I can't go into anything and not do it 500%. I'm just not made that way. I just didn't come from that kind of fabric. So I am being authentic. That's who I am. I had a client that we ended up ending an engagement, and because we had gotten so far, and I went on to my next engagement. But that man, I think that man calls me at least once a week. "You ready to come work for us? You ready for us to come hire you?" No, I'm not. I'm okay. But he was like, you get everything done. These people love you, and we haven't been able to get anything done since you left. And I was like, "Okay, well, you need me to come back to help for a little while? I can do that. But no, I'm not interested in a full-time job." But it's interesting because you never imagine that that's the way the response is going to be. But it has been a true blessing, which is why I know I can't be anybody other than me.
Amen to that. Vicki, let's flip it a bit, because you've been flying through this interview. What's your number one challenge? What's the one thing that you're trying to crack now that once you crack, you're going to get to the whole next level? What's that one challenge for you right now?
So as I want to grow my company, and I want to scale it and get to the next levels. And I have partners and things that I work with, that I can grow to. But I want to continue at this point, and it's an evolution. Okay, so let me say this to your eyes. This is an evolution. When you first get started and you're going, it's an evolution. And that evolution comes because it depends upon the size of your client. It depends upon the, industries, economic conditions, all of that. So things are evolution. Sometimes you're going to get a lot, sometimes you're not. So I believe in not just sharing the glory, but I'm going to tell you the real story. So it's not always easy. So let's not think that Vicki's able to go in and get 500 clients and it's all good. Let's be real about how this process works. Now, have I been blessed to have clients for many, many years? Yes. And I give them so many hours. But when I think about where I am today and my growth, I want to continue to be more in the rooms with the leaders that can make the decisions the quickest. Because the reality is that when you start working with organizations, depending on size, sales cycles can be forever. At least they feel that way. Okay. They take a long time. So you can start cultivating a relationship in early 2025, but it not really actually mature, or actually happen and come to fruition till mid of 2026. So everything you have to do means that you have to keep your pipeline triple, because you know the time periods. It's almost like writing out a timeline and say, okay, I'm gonna go after this client right now. They may not cultivate to here. Okay, so that's one. That's another one that could be here, but I got to cultivate another one. They may not come to here. So how many do I have to go after at any one time to ensure not only is my pipeline full, but how am I going to ensure that the execution of the agreement is in time that I can continue to move forward? Because it's that decision maker. So one, if I look at the biggest challenge right now, it's the sales cycle. It is the economic conditions, some of the fear that's in the economy about where we're going, even as a country, as we're moving forward, as things are happening, what's happening, politically, what's happening inflation-wise, what's happening, all of the things that are going on in the world today. A lot of those things impact different industries differently. So it is not as we continue to move forward, and you're really trying to get out to different levels of organizations, so some of them can be a little quicker and it doesn't take as longer as major corporations and things like that you're going into, are big household name brands. It does mean that the time, the effort, the ability to talk to as many as you can at one time, because it has to be a one-to-many strategy. How can I get to many people that I can have conversations with at once to lay a pipeline so that pipeline can mature, that pipeline can come to fruition as I move forward? Now, with that said, what are the strategies that you can use to do that? And I think there's many. So let me give your audience some practical tools.
Please.
So one of the things that I know after being an executive and sitting in the room, and now on the other side, being a vendor and wanting to get into the room, and recognizing the size of your company, let's be real. We have consultants everywhere. We have small consultants, medium-sized consultants. We have major brand consultants. When you're going into a door, you need to understand that competition. Now, I have a different kind of definition of competition, personally. I don't compete with anybody because nobody walked my journey. Nobody has my brain. Nobody does things exactly like I do. I create value. So I don't look at it as competition. When I say competition, I'm talking about only the size and the brand equity of that size to yourself. So if I were going to compare myself to an Ernst & Young, I'm not an Ernst & Young and never will be an Ernst & Young. I'm not on that level. I'm not a McKinsey. I'm not a Harvard. I'm not. So to say I'm going into an organization and I'm going to do exactly what they do, and a company say, yes, we're going to take her. Number one, a company's not going to take that risk. I'm too small. I get that. They're not going to take that risk. So my approach and strategy for that long pipeline has to understand that. So that also goes to the size of organizations that you're going to go to, that you're going to be able to be heard, be accepted. People wanting to invest, even if you are a smaller company, but investing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, and the things that you could bring to the table. So the challenge of helping people to do that can be long. So take a piece of it. Don't go in and ask for the whole thing. Let me take a piece and get in the door. I see you need to do all of this. I'm just asking for this little piece. That's all I'm asking. Just let me get in the door. Once you get in the door and they see this little piece, then it grows to here, and it grows to here, and it grows to here. And like I said, you become a fabric. I become a fabric of the organization. So it is the struggle and the challenge of getting to the decision maker the quickest, the fastest, to get decisions made so you can get in the door. But it is also making sure that you have the right little small thing to get you in the door, so that the risk to the people who are giving it doesn't look big, and your risk of getting in is easier, and your ability to show and to prove can get you the next one and the next one and the next one, and continuously. But it is a challenge. All of us would love to have a room full of decision makers that our pipeline that was grown and executed like that, right? And we could grow tomorrow. Everybody would love that. But unfortunately, that's not how the world works. So it's going to be a constant challenge, but that challenge can be opportunity. And I choose to look at things as opportunities, or I go crazy. Because having your own business, is not easy. I go crazy. So you got to look at them as opportunities, and how can we strategize to do the best we can around them.
Another amen to that. So we are way over time, but I love this, and I'm gonna even make it slightly longer, because there is one thing I want to double down on here, Vicki, because this is so important. And I'm talking to a lot of high-ticket B2B coaches and consultants, and the way most people have gotten into this and have grown, or at least kept their business steady for so many years, is through referrals only. And like they got used to get fed potential clients, referrals, and so on. And I'm convinced that some, B2B coaches and consultants still work that way, and it still kind of works for them, although a lot are steady, not growing. I love one of the things that you mentioned here, because you're very conscious of the sales cycle of your industry, but also the fact that if you want to say, so the way you approach this by reverse engineering is so good. If you say, I want 1 new client per month, what does it take to get 1 new client per month? Well, it takes me 3 conversations. What does it take me to get 3 conversations? It takes me 10 leads. In order to get 10 leads, I need 100 impressions. Obviously, this is rough math. But if you're just relying on referrals and you want to grow in 2026 as a B2B coach or consultant, and if that happens, reach out to me, come on the show, because we need to know the secret, because I don't see this happening anymore. You need a brand, you need content, you need to put yourself out there and show your authenticity and expertise as well, of course. Vicki, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
You can find me at Vicki, Vicki, Wright, Wright, Hamilton, HAM as in Mary, ILTON.com. I am on all social media. I am everywhere. And as you mentioned, and feel free, to get on a call with me, have a discovery call. But I want to say something. I have a gift for your audience, and I put it in the chat. I have created the first AI readiness audit, and it allows people to see where they are from a change management perspective and AI, and to see if they're even ready and what it's going to take to get there. And I would love to leave them with that free gift. So I have left it in the chat so that when you post it, you feel free to post that free gift to anybody who would like to utilize it. And hopefully it can help them to begin to get started. Because as I said, we have businesses at all different levels going through all different kinds of challenges, but trying to solve some of the same kinds of problems.
This is a great call to action. We'll put a link in the description. Vicki, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.